The panorama of the night sky holds unexpected wonders and beauties, if you just know where and how to look. Join us for a guided tour through the constellations. Next, on Amazing Space. The sun sinks slowly in the west, or that's the illusion that Earth's rotation creates. Time for the stargazers to emerge and catalog the wheeling panorama revealed by such a spin. A planetarium can link the earthbound to the nighttime heavens. From the Big Bang to the most exotic stars, a planetarium can show you the cosmos in a microcosm. This is a classic planetarium projector, a masterpiece developed by Zeiss in Germany in the early 1920s. It's made up of clusters of small projectors, each throwing pinpoints of light on the planetarium dome, reproducing a segment of the sky. Dubbed the Wonder of Jena after the city of its origin, it's still the source of wonder at most planetariums. As it whirs and rotates, the projector can simulate the celestial movements as seen from anywhere on Earth. To navigate the heavens, modern astronomers divide the sky into a grid. Longitudinal lines are called right ascension, in calibrations of hours, minutes, and seconds. Latitude or declination marks degrees north or south of the celestial equator. To match such a grid to the sky, just use your hand. At arm's length from the eye, the little finger and index finger measure off roughly 15 degrees. That's equivalent to 30 moon widths, for the moon, greatly enlarged here, fills about half a degree. The clenched fist equals about 10 degrees. 3 fingers equals 5 degrees. 1 finger approximately 1 degree, or 2 moon widths. To the northern polar sky now. The Milky Way is strung across the northern sky. The pole star Polaris is at the very center, shining bright in the constellation of the Little Bear, Ursa Minor. Ex-door, Draco, the constellation of the Dragon. Just below, Ursa Major, the Big Dipper or Great Bear. Top center, Cassiopeia, the Queen. To the left, Hercules, a Greek hero. Next to the king, Cepheus, and top right, the constellation of Perseus. Some bright stars, Vega in the constellation of Lyra. Higher up, you'll find Deneb in Cygnus the Swan. And to the right, Capella in Auriga. In long exposure, the trails of these northern stars around their polar axis.
Amazing Space will return on TLC. Amazing Space now continues on TLC.
Here, Earth's orbit takes us into seasonal extremes. The northern hemisphere has the short days and long nights of winter, ideal for stargazing. In the south, it's summer. Looking north, with the Milky Way draped across the winter sky, these are the constellations of the northern hemisphere. In winter, the star Deneb peeps over the horizon, just below Cepheus. If you point your binoculars here, top left, near Perseus, you'll find the brilliant double cluster, two groups of stars, some 300 in each, as bright as diamonds. Bottom right, beneath Ursa Major and best seen through a small telescope, Galaxy M51, with a satellite on its arm. Known as the Whirlpool, M51 has been probed by the Hubble Space Telescope to reveal a strange cross formation at its center, evidence perhaps of a black hole. Turn your binoculars higher up in Ursa Major and you'll find a pair of galaxies, M81 at the bottom and M82, both 8 million light-years away. A view to the north in winter. If you turn and face south, this is your winter sky. One constellation dominates the heavens, the handsome figure of the hunter, Orion. But Orion is just an illusion of the earthbound. If we could fly an enormous circle through space, the stars of Orion would appear quite different in their relative positions. As with all constellations, the familiar patterns are just a matter of our earthly perspective. Orion can guide you through the southern stars. A line through the 3 stars on his belt points to the brightest star in the sky, Sirius. Bright because it's so close to us. Sirius is part of the great dog, Canis Major. The 2 stars at the top of Orion are another indicator. They point to a much smaller constellation aptly named the Little Dog, Canis Minor. Its brightest star is another neighbor of ours, Procyon. Line up these 2 stars in Orion and they'll point you to a great multiple star, the system of Castor. Castor forms the head of one of the mythical twins in the constellation of Gemini. Back to Orion's belt, but instead of scanning towards Sirius, go the other way towards a bright orange star. It's our near neighbor Aldebaran, 40 times the diameter of the Sun. Aldebaran is the great eye of Taurus the Bull. In the shoulder of the bull, a star group called the Pleiades. Orion, our guide to the winter sky of the northern hemisphere. And here's a wider perspective, again looking south. Orion still dominates the picture. The main constellations, with the Milky Way running from Auriga at the top to Canis Major at the bottom. Top right, in Taurus, we take a closer look at the Pleiades, the 7 sisters. There are far more than 7. Blue, hot, and young, some 250 stars bathe in the dust from which they were born. At the center, still in Taurus, is a tiny pulsar. Spinning 30 times a second, it's the corpse of a giant star that exploded 900 years ago. A supernova that spewed out the Crab Nebula. Top center, in Auriga, is the double star Capella. Their combined brightness outshines our sun by 160 times. Top left in Gemini, the multiple star Castor, a small red binary orbiting a pair of blue binaries. 6 stars in one, resolving into 3 entities through a telescope. Center left towards Monoceros, you'll find celestial clouds through your binoculars. A black cone of dust seems to point to a central group of stars, the Christmas tree cluster. Also in Monoceros, the beautiful Rosette Nebula, a clutch of baby stars in a nest of hot gas. The brightest can be seen through binoculars. If you could fly towards Orion, you'd meet the star Betelgeuse some 500 light-years out, a red giant that could swallow our inner solar system as far as Mars. This star on Orion's belt, invisible to the naked eye but magnificent through a telescope, is the Horsehead Nebula, a cloud of black dust against a backdrop of red hydrogen. From Orion's belt hangs a sword. Train your binoculars on its tip to view one of the finest objects in the sky, M42, the Great Nebula in Orion, a place where stars are born. Again, if you could fly towards Orion, you'd encounter brilliant Rigel some 900 light-years out, a superstar 50,000 times brighter than the sun, burning so fiercely it'll have a very brief life. But it will end spectacularly in the cosmic convulsions of a supernova, spreading the seeds of new suns to come. Its spectacular shroud announcing the death of a star to the rest of the universe.
Amazing Space will return on TLC. Amazing Space now continues on TLC.
Late March. Our planet approaches an equinox. At this point in Earth's annual circuit of the sun, it's spring in the northern hemisphere and autumn in the south. Day and night are equal around the world. From the seasonal perspective, we're looking out from our own galaxy to those that lie beyond. We look toward the constellation of Virgo and a galactic jet. And in another direction, the celestial enigma of Eta Carina, perhaps a supernova in the making. Objects in the sky are identified by number. This is M100, Messier 100, or in the new general catalog, NGC 4321. In the late 18th century, French comet hunter Charles Messier began numbering unusual objects in the sky. Messier 1 was the Crab Nebula. Messier 31, or M31, is the galaxy of Andromeda. M42, the Orion Nebula. 110 fuzzy objects have a Messier number. Armed with this catalog, we can explore the spring sky. We're in the north, looking north. These are the constellations from the mid-latitudes. Top right in Draco is the star Thuban, once the pole star of the ancient Egyptians. Today, of course, Polaris is the pole star. And in the future, this will be the pole star, brilliant Vega. The succession of pole stars swings roughly within this circle. From Polaris today, the axis of Earth will shift towards Vega, the result of a 26,000-year wobble in the spin of our planet. Towards the horizon near center screen in the constellation of Perseus, the demon star Algol. Algol seems to wink every couple of days. That's because it's an eclipsing binary, dull when one star is in front of the other, bright when they separate. Also in Perseus, it was here in 1901 that a star exploded, a nova. The culprit, a binary with a smaller partner feeding on material from the larger. The result, celestial indigestion and a nuclear convulsion. After another build-up, it will go nova again. Unlike a supernova, the grand finale of a single star. Now we're looking south in spring from the northern hemisphere. Leo, the lion. Bootes, the herdsman. Corona Borealis, the northern crown. Libra, the scales. Corvus, the crow. Hydra, the water snake. And Virgo, the virgin. In Leo, the cross beneath the lion's head seems to spit out meteors, but only in November. It's then that the orbit of Earth passes through a trail of debris left by a comet. The result is a shower of meteors. In Leo's case, they're called the Leonids, but it'll be 1999 before they put on their best display again. The whole region of Leo and Virgo abounds with thousands of galaxies, misty blurs in a small telescope. This one, M87, is a gigantic sphere, probably an amalgamation of several ancient galaxies. The Hubble Space Telescope highlights a great jet shooting out from the galactic center. Scientists think that the jet streams out from a huge black hole. At the same time, material spins into this ultimate gravitational trap. M87 between Leo and Virgo makes for good binocular viewing. Further down, yet another bright galaxy. M104, the sombrero. Here, through a big telescope, a band of dust girdles the equatorial plane. From Virgo, still lower in the sky, to Corvus. This is the home of the ring-tailed galaxy. In fact, two galaxies in collision. Their immense gravity has strewn great chains of stars across the cosmos. The sights of spring in the north. Now from the southern hemisphere looking north, we see the constellations of autumn. They are largely the inverse patterns of the north. Bottom right in Bootes, the great star Arcturus. A giant, 25 times the diameter of the sun, the fourth brightest star in the sky and 37 light years from Earth. With the Milky Way straddling the sky, we're now looking south in autumn. The constellations from the southern hemisphere. Top center in the constellation of Carina, the great nebula of Eta Carina. It's just visible to the naked eye in a dazzling part of the Milky Way. At the very heart of the nebula, the most brilliant star is Eta Carina itself. Last century, Eta Carina was one of the brightest stars in the sky. Today, it seems to be hidden behind a shell of dust, perhaps the precursor to a supernova, the explosive death for the stellar giant. Down to the painter's easel and Beta Pictoris. An interesting star with a disk of dust, here in red and yellow. The star is bright enough for binoculars. Towards the center now, and to the biggest of our two satellite galaxies, the large Magellanic Cloud. Shaped like a bar, it's a mini galaxy with just 1/10 the star population of the Milky Way. In the left-hand side of the cloud is the Tarantula, bright enough for the naked eye. To the right of the nebula, a star blew up and died in 1987, the closest supernova in 300 years. Before it exploded, the doomed star puffed out a ring. Hubble captured it, and this remarkable shot following the explosion. Concentric rings of light race through space from the center of the cataclysm. Upwards now to Crux, the Southern Cross. Here is the Jewel Box, a cluster of brilliant young supergiants. Finally, down a little from the Jewel Box. This is the Coal Sack, not a hole in space, but the best-known dark nebula, and visible to the naked eye. A brief tour of the heavens, a guide that can only hint at the wonders to behold through telescopes, binoculars, or just by looking at the sky.
Travel to our nearest star and the planets between here and there, Venus and Mercury, as we continue our tour of amazing space, next on the Learning Channel.